They say betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it slips in slowly, quiet, calculated, like a thief in the night. For me, it came on a rainy Thursday, the kind of evening that already made everything feel a little more fragile. Spending time with the guys tonight, he'd texted. Simple, casual, like he'd done 100 times before. But this time, something inside me stirred. Something primal. Something sharp. Instinct, maybe. Or just the weight of years of small lies stacking up in the back of my mind. We'd been married for 8 years, laughed through tough times, celebrated little victories, built a life with foundations I thought were solid. I believed him when he said he loved me. I believed him when he said the late nights were just work or needing space. I believed until I couldn't anymore. It wasn't just one moment that cracked the illusion. It was dozens of tiny red flags that I had painted white for too long. Missed calls he never explained. The sudden change in his wardrobe. The way he'd started guarding his phone like it held state secrets. But that night, I snapped. Something inside me just broke clean open. I walked into our bedroom, trying not to pace, staring at the glowing text on my phone. Spending time with the guys. It echoed like a taunt in my mind. My fingers hovered over his laptop. He'd forgotten to log out again. Or maybe he thought I'd never look. But I did. There it was, his search history. Dinner reservations for 2 at a place we used to go to together. Uber receipts to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Venmo payments with hearts in the captions. My heart started hammering. And then I saw it. Her number. No name, just a number saved under B. But I knew. I copied the number and pasted it into my own phone. I didn't call. I didn't text. Not yet. I wasn't ready for answers. Not that night. I sat there in the silence of our home, the one we bought together, where we hung our wedding photos and dreamed about someday raising kids. I stared at the face of the man in those photos and felt an ache that words couldn't touch. How do you wrap your mind around the fact that the person you trusted most could lie to your face and kiss you goodnight like nothing was wrong? I felt stupid, blind, weak. But beneath the tears, beneath the shaking hands, there was something else brewing. Not rage, not yet. Resolve. Because if he thought I was going to roll over and let him rewrite the story of my life without a fight, he didn't know me at all. If he thought he could slip away into someone else's bed and return to me like nothing had happened, he was about to find out just how wrong he was. I didn't scream. I didn't cry out loud. I didn't confront him when he came home late that night, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. I simply smiled, asked how his night was, kissed him on the cheek, because I knew something he didn't. I had the number. I had the truth. And I was just getting started. It's strange the things your brain chooses to replay in the aftermath of betrayal. The way he used to hold my hand in public, like I was his whole world. The lazy Sunday mornings when we made pancakes in our pajamas. The late night talks about building a future together, growing old side by side. All of it. Lies layered over truth, like cheap wallpaper trying to cover cracks in the walls. After I found that number, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. The calls he took in the hallway with the door half closed. The long showers, right after coming home late. The way his eyes would flicker when I asked innocent questions. He thought he was being clever, but once trust is broken, you see everything differently. I noticed how he'd become distant, emotionally absent, offering just enough affection to keep me pacified. He was a master at deflection, dodging my concerns with jokes or fake exhaustion. "You're overthinking again," he'd say, with that same half-smile that once made me feel safe. No, I wasn't overthinking. I was waking up. I started checking his phone when he left it charging on the kitchen counter. The passcode hadn't changed, not yet. That was his first mistake. The second? Underestimating me. There were message threads I couldn't access, deleted, of course, but a few remained. Just enough. I saw her name finally. Brielle, cute, young, predictable. I clicked her contact info, same number, the one I'd saved. So it wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It was fact. I knew my husband was cheating. The depth of the betrayal hit me in waves. It wasn't just the physical act, though, that was bad enough. It was the months, years maybe, of deception. The time he stole from me. The love he accepted while giving it to someone else behind my back. The life we built on false promises. He was still sleeping next to me every night, still texting her while I cooked him dinner, still making love to me like nothing had changed, like he wasn't already halfway out the door. And the worst part? He was bold about it. Too bold. He started going out more often. "The guys are getting together," he'd say. "Don't wait up." I knew damn well he wasn't with the guys. I'd even driven past his usual haunts, his best friend's place, the neighborhood bar, and his car wasn't anywhere to be found. He was slipping, getting careless, because he thought, I didn't know, but I did. And every lie he told was another drop in the bucket. That bucket was filling fast, and it was about to overflow. The emotional toll was brutal. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. Every moment alone felt like a spiral into self-doubt and heartbreak. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked tired, hollowed out. But underneath, behind the broken eyes, something new was forming. A fire. I stopped asking him where he was going. I stopped waiting for him to come home. Instead, I started making quiet moves, watching, listening, gathering. Because if he thought he could play me for a fool, he was going to regret ever picking up that damn phone to text her. What he didn't realize was that he hadn't just hurt me, he'd woken something in me, something sharp, something strong, something dangerous. I wasn't going to scream or sob or beg him to stay. I was going to make sure he remembered what it felt like to betray the wrong woman. And it would all start with a name. Brielle. Some people will say it's just cheating, move on. As if betrayal is a small crack in a mirror, something you can ignore if you tilt your head the right way. But this wasn't just about sex. This wasn't just about lies. This was about the life I gave up to build his. I met James when I was 23, fresh out of grad school, full of ambition and plans. I had dreams, my own business, traveling, maybe even writing a book someday. But James had a dream too, and I supported it. Every late night he worked, every job interview across state lines, every move. We did it because it was best for his career. I put mine on pause. I told myself it was love, that we were a team, but teams don't leave each other behind in the middle of the game. I handled our finances. I packed and unpacked every move. I hosted dinners with his coworkers, always. Smiling, always charming, always making him look good. When he got promoted, he called it a win for both of us. But when I asked if we could finally invest in my business idea, he said, now's not the time. Apparently, cheating was. We didn't have kids yet, but we were trying. That was the real kick in the gut. I was scheduling doctor's appointments, tracking ovulation, watching my diet, while he was sneaking off to wine and dine another woman. I was planning a future with a man who was already building one without me. Wow. Betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was existential. It made me question everything. Every good memory. Was it real or just a mask he wore to keep me from noticing the cracks? But the more I unraveled the lie, the clearer the truth became. James wasn't careless. He was calculated. He knew what he was doing. He knew how much I relied on him, financially and emotionally. He knew he had control. And he thought I'd never leave because I had too much to lose. What he didn't understand was that when someone's already broken, your heart, they've got nothing left to hold over you. I started looking at things differently. I looked at the credit card bills. He had added Brielle to our Netflix account. Brazen. I looked through our joint savings. Money had been quietly transferred to a new checking account under his name alone. Thousands, maybe more. He was preparing for an exit, quietly draining the safety net I thought we shared, the one I helped build. So no, this wasn't just about cheating. This was about theft. Of time, of money, of trust. He was trying to erase me from the life I helped him build, trying to discard me like some old chapter he didn't want to reread. He was writing me out of my own story. But I wasn't going to let him. I thought of the women I knew who had been through this, who'd suffered in silence, afraid to speak up, to leave, to fight back. And I realized this wasn't just about my pain. This was about every woman who's ever been made to feel like she was overreacting. Every woman told to stay quiet, to take it, to let it go. Not me. Not this time. I didn't care if he wanted Brielle. I didn't care if he wanted out. What I cared about was the way he tried to do it. The lies, the manipulation. the cold calculation. He thought he was smart, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. He built this life with me, and if he thought he could burn it down and walk away untouched, he was about to learn just how dangerous the ashes could be. I wasn't going to just walk away. I was going to make him pay. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry in front of him. I planned. Because this wasn't just about catching him red-handed. It was about making sure that when I walked away, I had all the power, and he had nothing left to hide behind. He thought he was smart, thought he could cheat, lie, and scheme without consequences. But while he was sneaking off with Brielle, I was mapping every move he made. I started with the financials. I went back through our joint accounts, looking for patterns. Restaurants, hotel stays, gas station charges far from where he claimed to be. I made copies of every bank statement, every receipt, every transfer. I organized them by date, labeled everything. I even color-coded the spreadsheets. Obsessive? Maybe, but I wanted a paper trail long enough to bury him. Then came the legal prep. I quietly met with a divorce attorney, a woman named Claudia, tough as nails with a reputation for eviscerating cheaters in court. I told her everything. She listened carefully, her pen moving fast across the legal pad. "You're going to need more than emotion," she said. "You're going to need undeniable evidence." So I got it. I purchased a cheap burner phone and used it to contact a private investigator. Within a week, I had photos, James and Brielle at a boutique hotel in the next city, kissing, holding hands, laughing like they hadn't gutted another person's life in the process. I didn't feel rage when I saw the photos. I felt relief. Because now, it wasn't just my word against his. It was proof. While the PI worked, I began quietly separating my life from his. I opened my own bank account. I rerouted my direct deposit. I made a list of every bill and subscription tied to our shared finances. I started disentangling myself from everything, utilities, credit cards, even our streaming accounts. He didn't notice. He was too busy pretending everything was fine. Next, I backed up everything from his devices, the laptop, the tablet, even the smart home hub, which funnily enough had saved some of his voice commands, like play romantic playlist and call Brielle. I downloaded them all. I also made digital copies of our marriage certificate, home deed, insurance policies, anything I might need in court. I stored them on a secure cloud drive and a physical flash drive, just in case. And then I waited. I waited for the perfect moment, not just to confront him, but to corner him, to make sure that when it all came out, he wouldn't have a leg to stand on. It came sooner than expected. One night, he told me he had a networking event downtown. I kissed him goodbye and said, "Have fun." Then I followed him, watched from across the street as he met her outside a rooftop bar. They embraced like star-crossed lovers, completely unaware that their fairy tale was about to implode. I didn't approach them that night. I didn't need to. I had what I came for: live photos, timestamps, confirmation. It was all in motion now. I called Claudia the next morning. "I'm ready," I said. We filed for divorce that same week, but I didn't tell him, not yet. I had one last move left, one final twist in the knife. I waited until our anniversary. The same day he had made dinner reservations, probably thinking he'd go through the motions before slipping away to see her. I waited until he was dressed, smiling, holding a small gift bag like it meant anything, and then I slid the manila envelope across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Proof," I said, "of everything." He opened it. Bank records, photos, call logs, the private investigator's report, and right on top, the divorce papers, signed and notarized. I watched the color drain from his face. Happy. "Anniversary, James." I stood up, grabbed my coat, and left. Because I wasn't done yet. The next step? Justice, and karma was on its way. There's a strange kind of power that comes with the truth. Not just knowing it, but using it, owning it, turning it into a weapon after someone's tried to use lies to tear you down. After I handed James that envelope, the mask finally cracked. He tried to talk, of course, stammering apologies, weak excuses. "It didn't mean anything," he said. "I was confused. It just happened." But the best part? I didn't flinch, I didn't cry, I didn't ask why. I just said, "You'll be hearing from my attorney," and walked away like the 8 years I gave him weren't going to define me anymore. The plan was already in motion, and I had executed every piece with surgical precision. First, I made sure all communications with him were documented. Every text, every email went through legal channels or was written down and saved. No more late-night arguments, no more emotional traps. I wasn't giving him anything he could twist around in court. Then came the financial lockdown, because I had already opened a new account and routed my income away from our joint one. He no longer had access to my money. But I also froze our shared credit cards, every last one. I made sure he couldn't use my name to rack up a single cent of debt. And since he had tried to sneak thousands into a private account, my attorney filed a financial disclosure request, forcing him to produce statements and receipts. He panicked, tried to delay it, but the law was on my side. He tried to hide money, and now it was going to cost him. We also filed for temporary spousal support, just long enough for me to get fully on my feet. I didn't need him to pay for the rest of my life. I just needed him to be held accountable for what he tried to do behind my back. Next, I contacted the HR department at his job. It wasn't petty, it was strategic. He had been bringing Brielle to company events and passing her off as a family friend. He'd even used company funds for a few of their dates, including a trip that was supposed to be a business conference. I submitted the evidence, photos, receipts, call logs. That alone didn't get him fired, but it did get him investigated. And his perfect, polished reputation? Gone. Just like that. Meanwhile, I was quietly building my new life. I reconnected with friends I had slowly lost during the marriage, the ones he said were bad influences or too dramatic. Turns out they'd been waiting for me to open my eyes all along. They didn't say, "I told you so." They just poured me wine, helped me unpack my new apartment, and reminded me who I used to be. I started therapy, weekly, no skipping. Because even if I had won this battle, I had scars I needed to heal. Therapy didn't fix everything overnight, but it reminded me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I had survived something deep and personal, and I deserved to heal. I also did something that scared me. I finally launched the business I'd put off for years. Just a small online boutique at first, but it was mine. No one else's schedule, no one else's dreams, just me, reclaiming control. And perhaps the most satisfying part? I sent Brielle a message. Not hateful, not threatening, just a screenshot of one of the hotel receipts, paid for with our joint account, and a brief line, "I hope he's more honest with you than he was with me." She never responded, but she did stop showing up at his side. I don't know if they're still together. Honestly, I don't care, because I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for freedom. This wasn't just about burning his lies to the ground. It was about rising from the ashes with my head held high. I was no longer the woman crying in the shower or checking his phone in the dark. I was the woman who took her life back. One calculated, empowered step at a time. I thought the final confrontation would be explosive. Yelling, tears, maybe even some dramatic gesture like throwing a drink in his face or slapping him across the cheek soap opera style. But in the end, it was quiet. And somehow, that made it even more powerful. It happened in mediation. James showed up in his usual pressed shirt and smug confidence, flanked by a lawyer who clearly didn't know what he was walking into. He expected me to be emotional, erratic, maybe even desperate. But I wasn't the same woman who used to cry in bed wondering where he was. I was prepared, calm, controlled. I had my evidence, my lawyer, my spine. We went over everything: assets, debt, the house. He tried to argue for more than he deserved, playing the role of the wounded husband. But the moment Claudia, my attorney, slid the photos of him and Brielle across the table, time-stamped, printed in high resolution, his entire demeanor changed. He stopped talking, just stared. The room went quiet. Then Claudia laid out the timeline: the financial theft, the deception, the company misconduct. And when we showed his attempts to hide money, even his lawyer looked stunned. He was cornered. Completely. And he knew it. He signed the divorce agreement that day, no contest. I walked away with the house, my share of the savings, and, more importantly, my dignity intact. He left with a reputation in shambles and an empty bank account. No alimony, no second chances. The house felt different once he was gone. Quiet, but not lonely. I took down our wedding photos and replaced them with artwork I loved. I repainted the walls. I rearranged the furniture. I even let myself breathe again. I reclaimed my space, room by room. But the biggest transformation wasn't in the house, it was in me. I started smiling again. Not the forced, strained smiles I used to wear around him, but real ones. I started sleeping through the night. I stopped checking his social media. I started dreaming about my future again. I finally felt free. 1. Afternoon, weeks after everything was finalized, I got a call from a mutual friend. They told me James had been let go from his job. Quietly, but unmistakably. Apparently, HR hadn't ignored what I submitted after all. The company couldn't risk the scandal. Brielle? Gone. No longer on his arm, no longer in his life. Karma didn't knock. It walked right through the door and made itself at home. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I just felt peace. Because the thing about revenge is it's temporary. It gives you a thrill, sure. But justice? That lasts. James tried to erase me from my own story. But I wrote a new ending. One where the betrayed woman didn't just survive. She rose. She took every lie, every wound, every insult, and turned them into bricks. And then she built something stronger. He thought he had the upper hand, because he was the one who cheated first, but I was the one who finished it. So to anyone who's ever been lied to, manipulated, cheated on, know this. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You don't have to let their betrayal define you. You can walk away, yes, but sometimes walking away means walking straight into the most powerful version of yourself. The one who doesn't just move on. The one who takes her life back. And if you're lucky, like I was, karma will show up on your behalf and make sure they never forget the cost of betraying a woman who finally realized her worth.